How do businesses measure the cost of production? Marginal cost is the extra cost of producing one more unit, while average cost is the total cost divided by the number of units produced. The two are closely linked. When marginal cost is below average cost, it's going to pull down that average cost. And when it's above it, it's going to push up that average cost. Let's explore this relationship in more detail. Marginal cost will be a cost concept that we will use to make decisions on how much to produce. Our firms will be maximizing their profits, and we want to decide what is the output level, the quantity that will maximize our profits, and they're going to use marginal cost to do that. So this is a very important cost concept that we need to understand for the rest of this course. Right? Marginal cost is going to be the change in total cost divided by the change of output. So, right, this will give you, this marginal cost will give you what is the additional cost to produce one extra unit. Okay, and so we can get this change in total cost, right? It's going to be the change in fixed cost plus change in variable, because total equals fixed plus variable. Right? Now it's going to be divided by change in output. And we can simplify this because we know this thing, fixed cost, it doesn't change with output level. Okay, and so this is basically going to be 0. And so we can simplify this thing here by putting in a 0, and our marginal cost is going to simplify down to just the change in variable cost divided by the change in output. Now, I'm showing you all this so that you understand that marginal cost comes only from the variable costs, right? Marginal cost has nothing to do with the fixed costs, okay? So if variable costs change, marginal cost changes. If fixed costs change, marginal costs don't change because marginal costs have nothing to do with fixed costs, okay? All right, so what you need to know is the definition of marginal cost will be the change in total cost over the change in output, and that marginal cost has nothing to do with fixed costs. All right, so we want to calculate marginal cost from a table like this. This is the same table that we were using before for our web pages. In it, we have number of workers, our total product. This is going to be our output or quantity. And this is going to be our total fixed, total variable, and our total cost. So to get our marginal cost, we'll be using these two columns, the total output, the quantities, and the total cost. Marginal cost will be constructed as the change in total cost divided by the change in quantity or output as we move from row to row down this table. All right, so we don't need to do it for the first one for an output level of 0. We want to calculate marginal cost for these first 100 output level. And so we want to use this formula here as we move down this row. This table by row. All right, so this first row, our total costs are going to go up by $1,000. Right? What I'm talking about is this movement here. From our total costs going from 5 to 8,000, moving from row 0 to row 1. That'll be our change in total cost. Our change in output, right, is going to go from 0 to 100, and so our change in output will be 100. And so we'll get a marginal cost for those first 100 web pages of 30. Now, as we go from the first to second row, we'll get the marginal cost of those second 120 units here. So we can do the same formula. Our costs are going to go up by 3,000 because we have to hire another worker. Our output's going to go up by 120. And so now we'll have a marginal cost of 25. And we can continue doing this down the row. So I'm going to talk through one more. Going from 2 to 3 workers, our total cost will go up by 3,000. Our output will go up by 130. And so you can put that in your calculator and you'll get a marginal cost of 23. And as we go down, we'll fill in the rest of this table. Okay, and I'll leave the last two for you to fill in and be able to calculate those. Right. So what I want you to be able to do on the exam, if I show you a table like this, I can ask you, what's the marginal cost of moving from 3 workers to 4 workers? What's the marginal cost of moving from 5 workers to 6 workers, and so on, from a table like this? Okay, we can also put that into a graph. So here I have the relevant information, number of workers, total output, and our marginal cost that we just calculated. We could graph these numbers out, and you can see that at the beginning we have a falling marginal cost. So as we produce more, our marginal costs go down. This would be increasing marginal return. So our workers are getting more and more productive as we hire another worker. Then marginal cost reaches its minimum, and then we see marginal costs start increasing, and then increasing dramatically over here once we get to like 500 web pages. And so this would be an example of decreasing marginal returns. So as we hire more workers, these workers are going to be less and less productive compared to our earlier workers that we hire. And so that's going to start driving up our marginal cost of production as we hire less and less productive workers for our firm. Okay, next cost concept is average cost. We'll be using average cost to calculate profits after a decision of which quantity to produce. Average, really easy. It's going to be our total cost divided by our total output. Right? So we can calculate the average cost at each of these rows. Right? It's just going to be the total cost, $8,000, divided by the total product or the output or the quantity, 100, right? So 8,000 divided by 100 will give us an average cost of $80. Here it's 11,000 divided by 220 units, right? That's going to give us $50. 14,000 in total cost divided by 350 units, right? That was wrong there. That should be 14,000 divided by 350. This one's right. This one, 17,000 divided by 450 quantity is going to give us 17,000 divided by 450, get 3,778. Okay. All right. So you can just go down this table. Be ready if I ask you what's the average cost if you have 3 workers. What's the average cost if you have 4 workers? You're just using this simple formula of total cost divided by total output to calculate that average cost. Now, the relationship between marginals and averages is going to be very important. So we have some rules here. And so at the beginning, you're just going to have to memorize these rules and come up with some story to help you memorize these. So then it's not so onerous. So what we have here is that anytime marginal cost is less than average cost must be falling. So it's easy to interpret this on a graph. This green line here is your average cost, and our red line will be our marginal cost. So notice that marginal cost is below our average cost on this portion of the graph. And so because marginal cost is below average cost is falling. Marginal cost is pulling it down because marginal cost is below it. Think about if we were in a classroom and we're calculating average height of all the students in the classroom. If somebody walked in that was 3 foot tall and we recalculated the average, that person would bring down the average height in the classroom, right? And same thing's going on here. The marginal is going to be that 3 foot person coming in, and the average, they're going to be bringing down the average height as we add in people who are below the average height. They'll be pulling down the average height. Now, over here, we have marginal cost greater than average cost, and if marginal cost is greater, it's pulling up average cost. And we have increasing average cost. That'll be this one here. All right. This would be if LeBron James walks into the classroom, he's going to be above average, so a high marginal. Marginal is greater than average, right? And LeBron coming into the classroom is going to increase the average height going up that way. So as whenever you have the marginal greater than the average is going up, is increasing. And so if this is true, that if marginal is below average is falling. If marginal is above average, and average is increasing. So where they cross, where marginal cost equals average cost, that must mean that average cost is at its minimum. And that's going to be a really important point in our next module, perfect competition. We're going to be using this one a lot, where marginal cost crosses average cost. It's going to be at minimum average cost.